We all remember a few weeks ago in Israel where we witnessed the greatest killing of Jewish people since the Holocaust. But was Israel's response to this justified? Let's find out.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
So let's start at the beginning and give a quick minute recap for everyone who lives under a rock or everybody that does not know the full story. On August 14, Palestinians from Hamas hacked Israelis' alert system on their border and disabled all alarms in the area. Hamas terrorists then broke into Israelis' border using explosives and trucks. Then they made their way through the military base located at the border, killing everyone in sight and then stepping on their head, which we can see in a video. While they were doing this, they were of course recording it so then they can post it on social media and celebrate it after. The terrorists then made their way over to a music festival and killed a couple hundred people. These people at the music festival were not just Israeli, like some people claimed. They were also Polish, American, Turkish, and other countries. But that doesn't even mean anything though, even if some of them were Israeli, because they have nothing to do with the quote-unquote fight that Palestine has been having with Israel. While some terrorists were killing innocent civilians at the music festival, others were making their way to villages where Jewish people live. The terrorists then held families up at gunpoint and told them to leave their home. Hamas was also firing rockets into Israel at the same exact time, so the missile alarm system was going off, which made people exit their home. But they didn't know that there were terrorists outside of their door, and when they went to exit their home, they were shot. The terrorists then brought the people that lived in the villages outside and killed the men and raped the woman. Then they killed the woman because they didn't even matter anyway to Hamas terrorists. Now, what happened to the kids, you say? Well, they either took the kids and brought them back to Gaza where they would be raped according to Hamas terrorists themselves, or they would be beheaded on the spot. This choice was at random. After hours and hours of going on with this and witnessing all of the atrocities that were committed that day, Israel launched an offensive war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel is not messing around, and I wouldn't either. Israel is also planning a ground invasion into Gaza, but before they do that, they are alerting as many people as they can and evacuating them to go somewhere else. A lot of people are saying, where are these people going to go? Well, that's up to Palestine, which is in the West Bank, Egypt, and Iran. That's not up to Israel or the United States to take them in. That's what people don't understand about the simulation, is the fact that the simulation is the same from Gaza to Iran. The simulation is not the same from Gaza to the United States or Gaza to Israel. To round off, yes, the retaliation that Israel is doing now is justified. Plethora of different reasons. Number one, when you are attacked by an enemy and react in a just way to make sure that you missile exactly what needs to be missiled and not aim for innocent civilians as Gaza and Hamas is doing, that's called retaliation. Number two, thinking back to 2001 and the terror attack that rocked the nation on September 11 and killed thousands of people. Because of this, America bombed countries responsible for it and didn't think twice. The United States also stayed in one of the countries that they bombed for the next 20 years, which I don't agree with whatsoever, but that's exactly what happened. But this is not where Israel is going to do, and this is exactly where Israel is different. They don't want the Gaza Strip at all. What they do want is to have them get the heck out because they're causing too much harm to Israel. Number three, if Egypt really wanted Gaza, Israel would be at the forefront of negotiating this side ASAP. But Egypt doesn't want the land at all because they know that it's just a poop land. They've destroyed the land. You cannot even have any civilization on it because they completely took out all of the well systems and all of the septic tanks and everything like that. So you cannot have any city water at all because they damaged it. They polluted it on purpose because they're a terrorist regime. They don't care about their people. All they care about is using the materials that they got for human aid to actually build up their state to an actual, thriving community and a thriving state and with a thriving economy. But they took all of these materials that they got from human aid from all over the world and they used those to attack Israel and make weapons with those very materials. It's disgusting. That's exactly what terrorist organizations do. They use human aid and turn it on their hosts, and they turn it and use it as a weapon on the very people that gave them those materials at the very first place. With that being said, we are going to be digging into the headlines of the week. Moving on background, we actually have a Daily Wire article. We have 2 more hostages released from Gaza. Terror expert explains why. So, 2 more hostages were kidnapped by Palestinian Islamic terrorists 2 weeks ago and have been released by their captors. The families of Nusrat Cooper, 79, and Yosurovich Lisrij, 85, were notified that both women were released by Hamas. Their husbands are still being held hostage. They have reportedly been handed over to Red Cross. Tourism, a research analyst for the Foundation for Defense and Democracies, FDD, focused on Palestinian armed groups, said that Hamas claims that they released the hostages for humanitarian reasons were bogus. It's simply a tactic to create international pressure on Israel to delay a ground invasion into Gaza, he said. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller suggested that Hamas didn't get anything in return for the release of the hostages. As far as I'm aware, Hamas is not getting anything from the return of these hostages and have not released any prisoners. The government of Israel has not released any prisoners. I'm not aware of any release of any prisoners, he said. The release of 2 hostages on Monday comes after 2 American hostages were released late last week. Judith Natalie Renan, residents of Evanston, Illinois, located outside of Chicago, were released by terrorists on Friday. They were in Israel to celebrate a relative's 85th birthday in the Jewish holiday season. Hamas murdered 1,400 Israelis and more than 300 Americans during the attacks on October 7th and wounded 3,000 more. There was still approximately 200 hostages being held hostage inside Gaza, and 11 Americans remain unaccounted for. Horrifying stories have emerged from the atrocities that the terrorists committed, including raping a young girl while her father was forced to listen over the phone, burning people so badly that their identities cannot be confirmed, and beheading babies, which is just disgusting. That's just the atrocities that we talked about. It's a stupid time. It really is. These terrorist organizations do not care at all about these hostages. They do not care. They rape them. And they're not giving them the best. They're not sitting here saying, oh, here, this is a hotel you're going to be staying at. No, this is a room that you're going to be sleeping on the floor, the cold hard floor. We're going to come in the middle of the night, wake you up, scare you, and then rape you. And then you're going to go back to bed. And then you're going to fear that we're going to come back. That's exactly what they want to do to these hostages. Tennessee school put would-be shooter in classroom, told parents to become a left-wing activist if they were objected. So this is another Daily Wire article. This is a little switch up in the situation that we've been talking about, but this article was actually published yesterday, or actually today, on October 24th. So just months after 3 children were slaughtered at a Christian school in the state's capital, a Tennessee public school district returned a student to the classroom who last year threatened to shoot up the school, putting him in close quarters with the students who have testified against him in court, a Daily Wire investigation found. 9th graders at Giles County High School in a rural community an hour south of Nashville showed up for the new school year this August to find that the boy, who was 16 months prior was arrested for his plan to shoot up their middle school, has rejoined them in high school. About 7 of them have testified against him in court last year, detailing how he had a list of students he intended to kill and had a date picked out, and was running drills to practice the act. Now, he's back, and they believed there was an additional motive for the current carnage. When parents raised their concerns to the school district, it falsely stated that the laws of the Republican-controlled state house were to blame for the situation. Parents say that the school told them to become activists in this special session, where Democrats were pushing for gun control if they had a problem with it. Hannah Riley, whose son testified that he was warned by the would-be shooter not to come to school on a certain date so he could live, and she and numerous others have pulled their children out of school because they believe their children are sitting ducks. She said that the culprit, who the Daily Wire is not naming, disclosed his plan to her child because her child once showed him kindness, and he told authorities, "My child's desk is empty at school at my choosing because I do not want it empty permanently," Riley told the Daily Wire, adding that it brought tears to her eyes to have him miss out on the key high school moments. "My child did the right thing, and now he's the one being punished." The child has stated the motives repeatedly. "My child saw the list." Parents have been pleading with the school to do something, but officials have tried to pass the buck on to state lawmakers. The administrators told them that if they had any concerns about school violence, they should become activists, quote unquote, at the state capitol, where the time embroiled in a debate over over gun restrictions. No, that does not make any sense. If you're restricting guns, which schools are already a gun-free zone, so if you take a gun to a school, then that's already against the law. So you really think that making more laws against guns are going to prevent this? Killing is against the law. Bringing guns to no gun zones are against the law. Bringing guns to no gun laws. Bringing guns to no gun law zones. Bringing guns to gun-free zones. I guess that's how I would write it. Is illegal. Okay. I don't know, possessing a firearm if you are under the age of, I don't know, 21, because I'm 19. I can't even get a gun in the state of Massachusetts. So that's just telling you right there. So there's 4 different laws, 3 or 4 different laws that they are breaking just by giving this, allowing this student to take the gun to school. So why do we need a 5th law or a 6th law? If you're killing somebody, that's breaking the law. That's not going to prevent them from breaking the law further if they're breaking more laws on top of that. Doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, oh, well, the speed limit's 70, but if you go over 80, then the speed limit does, if you go over 80, then the speed limit's double or whatever the heck they say. It doesn't matter. You're speeding anyway. You don't care about the speeding ticket. It's like, okay, well, anything after this is more money. And then if you do this, then it's more money. Or if you do that, if you stay within the law, then it's less money. But if you're in the left lane, then you can get a ticket because that's a passing lane, and then blah, 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 blah. Okay, people don't care. Like, you really think that people are going to care about all these nitty-gritty laws when they're trying to break the law anyway? No, they don't care. Okay, I just read that parents said handling of the incident sent the message that the top priority isn't stopping school shootings, but rather pushing gun restrictions. They feel that the school was willing to put parents through a nightmare in order to get them to join the left-wing activists protesting in Nashville. Quote, they told us that you need to get in touch with your reps so you can change the law, said Natalie Johnson, whose child was on the hit list. Gun laws are not going to affect kids who are not supposed to have guns anyway. It's sad that our kids are being used as pawns. I completely agree. The state has long given school districts tools to respond to students threatening mass violence, but Gills County Public Schools don't use them. While state lawmakers this summer were considering adding a red flag law that would flag people with questionable backgrounds to prevent them from buying guns, there's already a system in place called the place to flag students that could pose a threat to violence, so schools can keep an eye on them. The school system won't explain why it apparently failed. Well, with the district saying that the high school wasn't aware of the student's recent disciplinary record, how do you not know? These kids have a public record and it's the year 2023. That's a sad, pathetic excuse. As Riley pressured the school for answers, the school system directed her to its outside attorney, Tim Underwood. Riley and her husband asked him how their child was being kept safe, but the attorney kept wanting to bring in gun rights. That does not make any sense. If I had it my way, there'd be more gun restrictions, the lawyer told them, she recalled. It does not matter. As a lawyer, you should know that you do not matter. What your opinion is in the case does not matter. What's actually happening in the case right this second. What's actually happening in the case right this second is that people are unsafe. Your pathetic little excuse for an opinion is not the answer to the crime and the problem that we have in this school. It's disgusting. The school wanted to look at us and say, our hands are tied and you'll have to take it to the Capitol Hill. It's about pushing their own agenda, she said. Activism? Where's your activism? She says. She's heard over and over again. My husband said last time I checked, a 14-year-old can't buy a gun already. Riley said, I don't know why Underwood even brought politics into this. My husband was like, this is so irrelevant. I completely agree. After the culprit returned to school, he immediately began engaging in violence again. He punched the child of a celeb single who learned of the backstory and began pressing school superintendent Vicky Beard on the issue, seemingly suggesting to explain how the Republican-controlled state house had anything to do with the situation. Beard appears to have invented an explanation, according to emails revealed by the Daily Wire. Tennessee law does not authorize or allow expulsion of students from public schools, Beard told Sliegel in an email. Tennessee law does allow suspension of students for a calendar year or up to 180 days for zero-tolerance offenses. Due to constitutional privacy rights, we cannot discuss specifics. None of that is true. The Tennessee Board Association, which Beard says she consulted, makes clear that zero-tolerance offenses require suspension for not less than 1 calendar year, and local school boards may deem any offense as zero-tolerance offenses. Long-standing Tennessee code states that regardless of whether an infraction is zero-tolerance, tolerance, school officials can set up a suspension to be any length that they want. The ability to expel students is laid out in the state law. This is the state law. This is 4A. If at the time of suspension, the principal teacher, or assistant principal determines that the offense that has been committed that would justify a suspension for more than 10 days, the person may suspend a student unconditionally for a specified period of time, or upon such terms and conditions as deemed reasonable. For purposes of this subsection, expelled means removal of the student's regular school program at the location where the violation occurred, or removal from school attendance altogether as determined by the school official. And zero tolerance offense means an offense committed by a student requiring the student to be expelled from the school for more or less than for at least 1 calendar year. That could be modified on the case-by-case basis by the director of schools or head of charter school. It's so easy. It's right there. It's right there in the law. The Tennessee General Assembly's Office of Legal Services confirmed that reading to the Daily Wire, stating that the Tennessee Code annotated did not limit the length of punishment for a student who threatened mass violence against others at a school. In July, a new law went into effect that requires districts to suspend a student for a year or more for threats of mass violence, but schools always had the authority to suspend them for longer, the office explained. Okay, so they're passing laws at the state house, actually siding with the parents and saying, listen, we are going to allow you to suspend the kids. Listen, if you did not think that you had the power before, you have the power to do so now, so do it. And the schools are like, no, well, the state house, we can't do anything. Our arms are tied in back of our backs and we can't do anything. Yeah, you can do stuff, and they're passing laws to help you go and do those very things, but you don't want to go and do those things. Internal emails obtained by the Daily Wire under the Freedom of Information Act shows that after Slingle wrote to the county and school officials, County Executive Graham Stewie replied privately to fellow officials that there was not any state laws tying the school's hands, and it was a matter of school policy. There's no statutes providing any guidance in matters like this, so the decision to retain the student resides with the schools, he wrote, adding that he had also discussed in the state lawmaker, given that allowing the student to return to class was a policy decision. I asked Dr. Beard to take the lead in responding to Mr. Slingle. Beard did so by telling Slingle the opposite. The state's laws tied the school's district's hands on the punishment, which is stupid. Slingle, whose son was attacked, became a thorn in the school system's side with the relentless push for the explanation. He told officials that if the issue was that the state law prevented it from suspending him for more than a year in his 2022 threat to shoot up the school, it could use the assault on his son to remove him from the school now. But Slingle, who was told that if he wanted to go down that road, they would arrest his son too for punching back. What? So if you defend yourself, that's against the law, so you can get arrested for that? No. This school has it all backwards. If I was a parent, I would be suing the hell out of that school district. I would be suing the hell out of the city. I would be suing the hell out of the state so that the state can wake up and say, listen, this school is going to be shut down. We're going to go in. We're going to take over the school. All these school officials that are in this district now, let's have another vote them all out, okay? Because that's not how you're supposed to be running a school at all. It's not an activist breeding ground, as some people would say. It's not an activist breeding ground, okay? What you have to do is keep stuff to the book, okay? And if you're saying, oh no, well, no, look at the book, look at the law, and say you have the power to do this. Protect our kids. That's why we give our kids. Protect our kids. Okay, you have one job to do, and that's protecting our kids. If you cannot do that, then you must step down. You must step down and take responsibility for the fact that if something does happen, you are to blame. You guys are to blame at this school if anybody results in anything. If anything happens to these children, these officials are to blame. If this student that they did not want to suspend punches another kid, if this student that they refuse to suspend goes to school with a gun, every single death will be on these administrators' hands. The blood is on their hands. If any blood does drip from these students, the blood is on the officials' hands. And they should be sued into oblivion, lose their livelihood because they refuse to protect the children that we put our trust in. We put our trust in these school officials to have our students' best interests at the forefront. But their political activism is at the forefront. Their political activism is at the forefront even before the safety of the students, and they're using the students as pawns. No, we don't do that in a polite society. What we do in a polite society is arrest those people, make sure that they do not have their teaching license anymore. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you went to school for your teaching license. If you refuse to follow the laws set forth clearly in the state code, then you must step down. Because if you cannot learn how to read, then you should not be teaching others how to read. It's just that simple. With that being said, we're going to end off this episode here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. And if you did like this episode, please like and subscribe down below, because I do post new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.